All right, Scott Bass. Let's talk about our love of real water sports. What a beautiful place to visit during the summertime.
Yeah, North Carolina in the summer, the Outer Banks, it's a beautiful community, wonderful little stretch of coastline there to hang out and real water sports is right there in the middle of it in Waves, North Carolina. And I got to be honest, I've been on the Real Water Sports YouTube channel checking out their YouTubes of foiling at Chicama. I've got questions. What gear do I need? What suits do we need to bring? Um, how many boards? How many foils? How many surfboards? I ordered a new board for Chicama. Real Water Sports, they're your one-stop shop. They're
Is
going to give you information. They're going to give you the right information so you can make an educated and informed choice on what gear to buy.
well, they are experts. The whole staff there is like former professionals in their given discipline, professional kiters, foilers. With foiling though, do you bring more than one, like surfboards?
The board itself, no, I'm just going to bring one board,
One board, and then you
I
bring
believe. I
multiple
believe.
foils or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in that place right now where I'm trying to figure it all out.
Okay.
But um I think yeah, just one wing, one foil, maybe some different tails.
Oh, okay, I see.
I don't know. It's very confusing. It's not confusing. It's like surfboards. It's like you know how they work, but you're not sure which one to bring because the conditions could change and there's a lot of
But
variables.
my question is, the board itself is pretty much the uniform piece, and then the wings and everything else are what you swap out.
Kind of. So the thing is that at Chicama, and I don't want to ruin our real water sports spot. Maybe we should talk afterwards about it, but you're going to get pulled up on a rope. You're going to get towed into the waves, and then you're going to release the rope. And
Got
so
it.
to get towed up on a rope, you want a board that doesn't have a lot of volume because you need to sit down on the board, as you may recall when we were there getting towed up at Rio a couple of years ago. So my board's got some volume, so it's hard. When I was in Fiji, I noticed it was hard for me to get up on rope because it was hard for me to keep my board underneath me. It wanted to pop out of the water. So
Yeah.
less volume, you can kind of sit on it and control it. And
But once
but
you're up
then
and
I
riding,
saw on the Real Water Sports video from about foiling in Jacama, the guy was basically like, once you get up, it's kind of nice to have your board that kind of. So I'm I'm still trying to figure it all out.
gotcha. Funny. Okay, well, go to Real Water
Yeah.
Sports for all of your water sport needs. And then I was saying it's a nice time to visit. They actually have a retreat next door. It's Waterman's Retreat. It's an incredible hotel. Scott and I stayed there a couple of years ago in July and participated in one of the foiling retreats. So, in addition to the hotel, then they also do retreats. So you can go stay with them, do the retreats, the retail stores right there. And then they also have a restaurant, the Waterman's Bar and Grill. So, it's an incredible compound and the place to be in the Outer Banks during the summertime. So go check all of it out at realwatersports.com. Of course, follow the YouTube channel to learn more. And then what else would you want to wear other than Colby Plus suits? Whether you're going to Chicama or elsewhere, your local environs, Colby Plus is the way to go.
Yeah, I have a brand new 3.2 that Rob sent me, I don't know, a couple of months ago maybe. And it's been 4.3 weather mostly here in San Diego for a long time, but the water's warmed up. So I put on my 3.2, my brand new 3.2 yesterday.
Oh, nice.
Slipped on a brand new suit. Felt
N-
wonderful. How
Nice.
toasty and warm I was. It was incredible. And so yeah, Colby Plus for all
Well,
your wetsuit and gear too. They have great gear. They have the wet dry duffel, and of course they got leashes and stuff like that too. So
I
Colby
was gonna say,
Plus.
this suit right here is actually, I think, 2 seasons old, 2 years old. Um, and it's still, I just busted it out as well, and it's still totally holding up, kind of no leaks, no nothing. So
I
I was
know I have
surprised.
two 3.2s that are totally like, you know, rinse them and they don't have any wear and tear on them.
That's always my concern with a I don't know, a brand that you haven't tried before. Like I love the Colby Plus straight out of the gates 2 years ago when we first started getting them. But this has been dry for 9 months probably. And so I put it on recently thinking, okay, I'm gonna feel some, gaps or a little bit of leakage or whatever. It still felt phenomenal.
Yeah.
So they're holding up really well too. So go to Colby Plus, it's Colby, colbyplus.com. I'm sure you've seen them on Instagram. I see their stuff all the time. So check them out. Colbyplus.com for Yamamoto wetsuits direct to consumer. So at a low price.
As we see some movement at the takeoff zone, it's Kelly Slater grabbing rail.
Yeah, guy, David. Welcome to the Spit Podcast. It's Wednesday, June 4th, and this is the podcast Spit, where Scott and David talk all things surf and surf news and surf related, and a couple of other cultural items on occasion. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Scott Bass. Existential quandaries,
Yeah,
mysteries of the universe,
I've got
health,
a mystery. I
fitness.
stumbled upon a mystery this morning, and I've got quite a few mysteries, and one of them is what gear I should take to Chicama. But the other mystery is, so did you read Sam McIntosh's piece about Kelly Slater becoming the next Stab in the Dark participant? Did you read that?
Not only did I read it, but when it's written by Sam direct specifically, I always read it and I always enjoy it.
Totally agree with that. And we're lucky because as premium members, and by the way, this is not a plug. This is, well, I guess it's a plug, but it's not a paid plug. But I'm telling you that one of the many cool things about being a premium Stab member is they send you they send you some of the information before everyone else gets it. So this came into my inbox a couple 3 days ago, I believe, and I was ecstatic. I was stoked to hear about this. But my question to you is, before we get into the Kelly Slater and the Stab in the Dark, what was your main takeaway? And this will explain the quandary that I'm in.
Hmm. What was my main? I don't know what my main takeaway is, but one of them was that Kelly, I like how Kelly has designed his life. People think that he's elusive. Sam kind of discusses that, how this has been in the works for 2 years and they finally pulled it all together. But I don't think that Kelly's being intentionally elusive. I think Kelly recognizes that everybody wants his time. And if he tries to oblige that, he will be frenetic and frantic and high anxiety all the time. And so Kelly has picked his priorities, which is being in the right place at the right time to get the best waves in the world. And then everything else just has to kind of fall in place around those priorities. So that was my takeaway.
Okay, my takeaway was I've been suffering from back pain for about 2 months. My takeaway was this functional patterns thing that Sam McIntosh does. I've been down a functional patterns rabbit hole. I'm very, very close to taking this clicker and clicking on and purchasing the program. Um, and, in the piece, Sam talks about he and Kelly kind of going through some stuff, going through some of the program with Sam's trainer. And I'm I'm in that place where I've had some back pain. Yoga's not really helping it. I've stopped lifting weights because of it. The back pain occurred because I bought these weights and I wanted to get my legs stronger, not build muscle, but get stronger for foiling and just for life, have a stronger lower body. So I started doing these lunges with weights, and I started getting back pain, and now I've given up on doing anything with free weights because I'm just trying to get back to no pain, and I'm not there. And so this functional patterns thing, I almost was going to reach out to Sam directly and go, should I do this? And of course, I know he's going to say yes, so I'm not going to send him an email. But anyway, that's where I'm at with this whole Kelly Slater
That's
thing was
hilarious.
functional patterns. Of course, it's all about me. How do I get my back better? So if
So,
any listeners out there have done this, please send me an Instagram message or email us and let me know if this is a go. Because I'm literally on the order page about to click on buying the 10-week program.
Sam has scoliosis and it's really bad. And I don't know if you remember, but when we were at the Kelly Slater Surf Ranch, 2018, it might have been, or the end of 2017, Sam was there and he was complaining about it at the time, and I think explaining it, and he'll just be completely like hunched over in a C, like a big, C curvature to his spine, and he has to do a lot of work just to kind of break free from that and feel any sort of comfort at all. And then surfing, of course, is what he's trying to kind of get in shape to do. But I guess Kelly, he says towards the end of that piece that Kelly has it too, and he's constantly fighting it. So Sam, that's what they were able to connect on, and Sam was able to share some information on because he's been dealing with it in a more intense way and for longer. But what exactly is the program that you're talking about? Do you have any idea?
Well,
Or does
yeah.
it give,
So I went to the website. I just Googled it and I went to functional patterns, and they have you take a quiz to kind of tell you what you're trying to get out of this. And I really don't know too much about it, but it looks like it's a series of, it's a 10-week plan, that exercise plan that's supposed to get, I believe that it's based on if you have good posture. It's basically trying to realign everything so that your tweaked back is because of your hamstring or whatever, like it's just trying to kind of get you aligned perfectly and in symmetry. That's what I'm gaining out of it, my, dive into it here. But I don't know. I can't
so
answer. That's kind of what I'm like. I'm hesitant because I'm kind of like, what exactly, like, do I need equipment? Do I got to buy stuff? Like, what
yeah.
is this 10-week program? And so I'm on the FAQ page trying to figure all this stuff out.
So to be clear though, it didn't exist prior to you buying those weights. It's
No,
not like a recurring degenerative problem.
I mean, it could be. I mean, I'm 60 years old. I've had back surgery before,
Oh, okay.
and the back surgery solved my pain, which was like a shooting pain down my leg. I don't
Okay.
have that. I have stiffness. And what's interesting is it was on my right side for a long time. Now it's on my left side. It kind of
Okay.
moves around. I
Did
bought a new
you?
bed hoping that would
Oh my
solve it.
goodness.
The bed
Yeah.
hasn't arrived yet, so I'm not sure if that's going to be the problem.
So, was it a instant problem with the lifting weights, or did the weights just slowly kind of make the problem worse?
Um, I
Wasn't
feel
like a
like
slip disc or something.
no, I don't think it was like a slip disc. No, I
Okay.
think it was like I probably overdid it or something. And
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, I have one bit of advice, which may or may not apply to you because I'm not injured. But when we were in El Salvador and we were surfing quite a bit, and my body was sore, I got a couple of massages, and those really didn't solve the problem. They feel good in the moment, but it's like, an hour later, I'm still kind of sore. The best thing was swimming. So I went out in the water right in front of the hotel and just went body surfing and kind of flailing around. And my goodness, the moment I stepped out of the water, I felt looser than I felt for the entire week. So that really felt therapeutic to me. Since then, I've started swimming laps, and I found that to be a really, really great exercise. It's great cardio. There's a bit of resistance for muscle building, but also just loosening. Like I get out of there and I just kind of shake free. I'm like, man, my body just feels loose. It's like this kind of zero gravity environment. And your arms just, it just feels fantastic to me. And
I love that. I love
I,
that. And I've
I,
done, yeah.
I've heard people tell me that too. Like when I'm interviewing them for Surf Splendor and I'm like, hey, how do you stay fit? Over the years, a number of people have pointed to swimming. Actually, most recently, Nick Carroll, who looks like the model of fitness, actually.
Yeah,
So that's something I would encourage if you have access to a pool or
I
even
do.
the
I do. And that's such a good idea. And I have done that in the past, and I'm glad I wrote it down as you said it, because I'm like, oh yeah, I actually have access to a pool all the time. And but now I genuinely hate swimming. Like,
It's hard,
it's
man.
boring.
It's
It's
way
not that
more,
it's hard, it's just boring.
it's less boring to me than running because I was running for years and that's become hard on my joints. It's just not comfortable for me anymore. Swimming is way more less boring to me,
I feel like there's some headsets that you can get, like Bluetooth speaker headphone things
probably.
that are water resistant, that you
Yeah,
can listen. At least I could listen to Surf Splendor while I'm swimming.
there you go.
Yeah.
Thanks. Um, well, good. Yeah, I'm glad that reach out to Sam, get more information.
Yeah. Well, I'm hesitant to bug him. He's somebody I only want to reach out to when I really need to, you know?
Yeah, totally. Before we get into the Kelly stab in the dark, I've got follow up on something that we got from an email listener.
Yes, we need to talk about this. This is big. This is we need to get to the bottom of this.
This might not be, what do you have? It's different than what I'm talking about.
I've got the thing from TR from Tony Roberts about
We'll get to it. We'll
okay.
get to it in a second. I just
Okay.
wanted to say, remember we had I mentioned it on the show. Martin Daly posted that footage of those crocodiles
Yes.
that he implied was at Macaroni's.
Yes.
We got,
Is he throwing us off the scent?
I think he might be. We got
That
an
does
email
not
directly,
surprise me at all.
live reporting from Macca's with the Croc Report. Let me tell you a quick story. My husband and I are currently on a 2-month surf trip through Indo with nothing booked or planned, just ideas of where we want to go and a constant morning check of windy and surfline. A few weeks ago, while we were at another outer island in southern Indo, we checked the forecast for macaronis and it looked absolutely perfect. We emailed Macca's only to find out that they had one room left for their most upcoming trip. Epic, we thought, meant to be. So we pulled the trigger, paid the hefty cost for 2 surfers to spend a week at Macca's. We booked our flights to Padang and our hotel at Santika. We woke up the next morning only to find news stories of the Crocs at Macca's posted all over the internet. What are the odds? Naturally worried, we emailed the resort my concern about dropping a few grand to surf with Crocs. They emailed back quickly to ease our nerves that the photo of the Crocs had been blasted all over the media was in fact not macaronis, but further up north in Sumatra, according to their email. We thought, how bizarre for this fake news story to go viral in the surf community. We've been here for several days now, no Crocs in sight. Good news for us. The bummer, however, was the crowd. Even though Macca's is regulated to only the guests who stay at Macaroni's and a few other charter boats, I sat and waited my turn for a wave that morning with and counted 47 people in the lineup ahead of me. If the Croc story didn't already scare you away from forking up to make the trek here, then the amount of bros in the lineup should. Unfortunately, the Ments have been blown up so hard, and surfing these perfect waves comes with its own costs. Are perfect waves still perfect if you have to sit in an overcrowded lineup? I would love to hear your thoughts on this. P.S. I included the email in the attachment below. Keep my name anonymous, por favor.
Yeah. Well, look, the Mets have been blown out of proportion crowd wise for a long time. This is not news to you or I or to most, which is why um, I always look at it like this, like the Mentawai is kind of like where you go when you're 18 to 28. Like that's where you go. You deal with the crowds. You're there to kind of show the world that you can surf perfect waves. You're going to be with a bunch of other 18 to 28-year-olds. Your male hormones are going to be flaring. The peacock feathers are going to be out. You're going to be friggin' broing down and saying, that's so sick, like numerous times. And eventually you're going to realize this place is crowded. I don't want to pay this amount of money to surf in a crowd. I want to go somewhere uncrowded. And once you reach that place in your life, you start finding the places that aren't crowded. And if I was going to tell you where they were, I'd be doing you and me a disservice. But they're not that hard to find, you
Yeah.
know? And a lot of times you got to pony up a little bit more money to get to that exclusive zone.
Yeah.
And other times you don't. Other times you just know.
I think
And off season is one option.
I look, if you're willing to rough it, then there's definitely ways to do it on the cheap and willing to do it without the accommodations, and all the obvious insights from the global surf community. But going to Macaroni's is definitely not that. Macaroni's definitely been blown out for a long time. Um, so the question though is, was there an intentional smokescreen by one Martin Daly in an effort to lessen the crowd at this overcrowded spot?
Well, I mean, is Martin's boats one of the boats that's allowed to surf there? I guess it is. I'm sure Martin doesn't give a shit. Martin would be like, you can't tell me I can't surf here. What are you gonna do?
And
Call the cops?
no, but I
I'm
do think
Martin
it was,
Daly.
I bet you it was an intentional smokescreen though.
Oh, no, I would never. You'd. odds are great that it was a smokescreen.
Intentional. And the idea, though, that it would thin out the crowd, I think is pretty uh,
Yeah.
farcical. Like it'll thin out the crowd that day. And then the
Yeah.
next day, people will be back surveying the scene.
Yeah. Yeah.
Certainly didn't stop our listener. So I waited a
No.
few weeks to read that email for the listener because just to give it a little,
Yeah.
let them surf the spot and bail before.
Yeah.
But
I
anyways,
mean,
there's that.
there's other great waves around there. One of the things about the Mentawais is I'm sort of a land camp guy. I'm over the boat, but if I went to the Mentawais, I would be on a boat so you could pull up anchor and get the hell out and go find some other waves. There's so many fun waves around there that if you have a good captain, a guy that knows what's up with wind and swell and everything,
Yeah.
and has been there long enough to know the little nooks and crannies, you're gonna there will be sessions where other boats show up, but you're gonna also have those moments where it's just you guys for a while, and that'll be good.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, what was the controversy that you wanted to get into or the
Well,
feedback?
Tony Roberts, our friend Tony Roberts, listened to our podcast last week. And on that podcast, you and I were basically saying it's kind of over for Kelly. We don't see him doing well at lowers. Um, I'm not sure if that's exactly how I phrased it. I know you phrased it that way. I think I was kind of in
You,
between, non-committal.
yeah, you were posing the question to me, and I basically wrote him off. I said it's a waste of a wild card. Why
Right.
would you give somebody a wild card who's not a threat to win the event, basically? And I think there's 8 guys on tour who would smoke Kelly in any conditions at
Okay.
lowers at this point in Kelly's career.
Right. And so that triggered Tony to send us this email. And he says, I'm kind of baffled on your guys' underestimation of the GOAT. The consistent criticism I see here is that Kelly is not surfing as fast as the current guys on tour. Couple of things. Seems that no one is noticing the current trend of double and triple pump bottom turns disguised as fast surfing, except for Sean Thompson. Thought I was the only one that was noticing that.
He said that I don't know if you're interviewing Sean with Sean. Sean mentioned this as well. But
I can't recall.
yeah, when I interviewed Sean, we were talking about current surfers, and he said Ethan's a beautiful surfer, but what the hell is up with that double pump bottom turn? He's like, there's room for improvement for all of these guys, even the top surfers like Ethan Ewing, who's still doing a double pump.
I don't know if Ethan's doing the double pump all the time, but anyway, then he said, this is now I'm continuing with Tony's email. He said, even Ethan Ewing is doing that, the double pump, which is what you mentioned. And it sucks. Julian at Burley Heads was the only guy not doing that. Coming down into a full bottom turn and back up with no hitches, and his combinations looked better than everyone else's for that reason. It seemed the judges were taking note. Yes, Felipe got him in the end, but he made it all the way, Julian made it all the way to the finals, even though Julian's muscle twitch was slower than most everyone else's, and his basic slob grab straighties and reverses were getting rewarded as well. Kelly easily has all of that, and most notable, no double pump bottom turns. And as for his air game, remember the last final between John John and Italo at Trestles? Italo's speed and airs could not have been gnarlier. John John took him out with Peter Mel No Limits parts circa 1987 float layback snap combo. That's a reference, I think, to one of Tony's videos. We're judging, in my opinion, but with that criteria, Kelly certainly can school these fools. Kelly has not looked fired up in recent events and even says as much, which is self sabotage in and of itself. That is more the issue than his surfing. Self sabotage more the issue than Kelly's surfing. If his head is in the game and he truly and really wants it, his superior wave judgment and heat IQ combined with a performance surfing level in waves of non consequence that is still way higher than folks are giving him credit for can take people's scalps. Everyone keeps talking about age. However, a surf contest is a lot more like a salsa dance contest than it is an MMA match. End of email from Tony Roberts. He's throwing in the old guys. I sent him back an email. I'm like, this sounds like a 55-year-old dude that wrote this email. And I say, more power to you, Tony. I'm on the old guy bandwagon. I would love nothing more than to see Kelly in the finals against who's ever on the bottom half of that draw. It might be, I don't know. Well, that's to be determined. Who knows? But if he does get that far, Tony's right. There will be scalps. He'll be starting as a wild card, and he'll be taking out all of these high seeds. It'll be a show for the ages. It would be great drama, great story, great contest to watch all of that unfold. Can he take another scalp and another scalp and another scalp? We shall see.
Are you won over by Tony's perspective and arguments?
I do. He has helped me to see things in a different light. The question is, the judges seem to be rewarding the double pump bottom turn. So if he's saying, well, Kelly doesn't have that, I'm saying, well, maybe it doesn't matter because they're rewarding him. But he's also saying, well, look, Julian was getting rewarded for smoother. Look, and by the way, a side note, I watched some free surfing from yesterday or the day before on YouTube down there at Lowers. Ethan Ewing looked so much better than any other pro surfer. There was only a few on the video. I think it was Yago, might have been Seth Moniz, somehow or another Taylor Knox, who looked every bit of 55 years old when you compare him to Ethan Ewing. And by the way, Taylor rips, and I'm not trying to take anything away. Taylor's inspiring to all of us that are over 60, still trying to get our CT on. But Ethan just looked heads and shoulders above all the other pros in the water at Lowers.
So I agree with so much of what Tony's saying, but it hasn't changed my opinion at all. I think one thing that he's overlooking is the double pump bottom turn that Ethan Ewing is doing, which is kind of shocking that he's doing it, to be honest, because we talk about him as being the example of technical proficiency, like fundamental, like that is surfing right there. But sure enough, watch the bottom turn. He's doing a double or a triple check. Jack Robinson does it as well, which is surprising. My point is
sometimes you have to do that. Like, let's say if the ideal is to do just transitions, what I'm going to call a smooth transition, where it's just one bottom turn straight up, but you do a bottom turn and you see that, you know what, that's not the section that I need to hit. It's actually crumbling another section down the line. So I'm going to step back and do one more pump so that I can get to the section that I need to get to. I think if you're looking at like a wave pool where it's very easy to just go bing, 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 up and down, smooth transition, you're not going to see the double pump bottom turn.
You see it as a default with Ethan. I think you'd be surprised if you go back and watch.
I think it's a need. I think it has to happen on occasion to get to the section that you're trying to get to.
Don't disagree with that. I'm saying I think it's happening more with Ethan than you're realizing, and that he's doing it as his default. That's just how he sets up the wave. But the point that I was going to get at was the judges are scoring Ethan appropriately. Like he is ripping the bag out of his front side turns, okay? But they're not going to downgrade the score because there was a double pump bottom turn. So let's say the 3 turns that he did at Bells, I forget what that score was. It was an 8 or 9 or something like that. Crazy Bells on the bowl surfing. So that's an 8 or a 9. If they go back and review the footage and it turns out he did double pumps to get to each of those 3 turns, it's not like that score then becomes a 7. He's still doing the gnarly. So what Tony is suggesting is that Kelly's going to go out at Lowers and do drawn out bottom turns and somehow get an 8 because the bottom turns are so gnarly. No, if the top turns that Kelly is able to do off of a single bottom turn aren't gnarlier than what Ethan Ewing is doing off of a double pump bottom turn, Ethan's going to get the score. So I agree from Tony's kind of assessment that if you're going actually his what he would argue is that the single bottom turn will generate more speed and power to put you in the right position to do a bigger frontside turn. I think that's true in theory, but what Ethan is doing gnarlier top turns than anybody else and arcs, and he's doing it off of a double pump, which doesn't seem to make sense. And if he could turn that bottom turn into a single drawn out maneuver, then it'll be even gnarlier and it'll go from an 8-5 to a 10, maybe. That's an argument to be made. But the surfing he's doing on his forehand, despite the double pump, is still the gnarliest surfing that we're seeing at lowers.
Yeah, and I could also suggest to you that perhaps if Kelly's and Ethan's top turns are relatively similar from a scoring perspective, now
Yeah.
we as judges can look to the bottom turn and go, well, who was smoother down there? If they're doing the same thing up there, who was actually smoother down at the bottom? At which point we would say, oh, it's Kelly, and therefore we'll give him whatever, an extra half a point or whatever it is, a point of differentiation, so that we can separate him from Ethan.
And yeah, and just to fully clarify for listeners who may not understand why one is different or better than the other, if you're surfing the way that Kelly is, it's one fluid motion from the start of the ride to the end of the ride. So you get to your feet, and the energy that you're taking on that drop goes into a bottom turn. That bottom turn goes into a top turn. Then it comes back into a, maybe banks off the whitewash. All of that is one fluid motion. And that fluid motion looks like poetry, and it looks beautiful, and it looks seamless. It looks like
A
one.
salsa dance.
Exactly. Which also, I disagree with that.
I like that. I think that's true.
I think it should be. He said a surf contest is more like a salsa dance contest than an MMA match. I would agree that maybe it should be that, but it's not that. In our current format, it's more of an MMA match. It's You want to see heavyweights going blow for blow, throwing the knockout punch currently. That's what's being scored. So my point though is that you just want to see one fluid motion of energy from the beginning of the ride to the end of the ride, and as opposed to these check fits, stops, starts, So that's the argument that Tony's making, which is I agree with. I just don't think that it's Kelly is still gonna,
We shall
be a
see.
threat at the
The
end.
forecast looks good. Nothing huge, but that's kind of ideal for lowers. It looks like 4 to 5 to 6 feet throughout the forecast period. I believe the event starts June 9th. So if you want to get your second chance survival pick in, I think I lost. I paid to get into the second chance. I'm pretty sure I lost.
I picked Jack Robinson and lost.
I think
Jack,
that's what I did. I think that's what I
that's what
did.
I think like 80% of the league lost. They picked the local boy
Yeah.
who's in the
What
top
the hell?
five,
It's
still
amazing
lost.
how that survival league just there's like a jinx or something. I don't know. Everyone's got Jack Robinson. Come on.
It's impossible. Yeah.
Hey,
Uh,
David, who said that? Who said that? You ready for this?
I want to hear the multiple choice before I just shout out the answer.
Okay, who said that? And I quote, at the end of 1979, my goal was to make the year-end top 10, which I achieved. And I was really geared and hyped for the 1980 circuit. When I was preparing my boards and stuff, I knew I was going to come up against MR often early in the events because of the way the seedings were. But I didn't think, because it was MR, oh shit, how am I going to get out of this heat? I don't look at any surfer like that. I was actually looking forward to it. Then I lost to him at the straight talk contest, then again at the stubbies. So by the time the Coke came around, I was determined it was going to be all stops. I said to myself, you're going to put that bastard down. And I did. Who said that, David? Was it one, Rabbit Bartholomew, two, Critta Byrne, three, Hans Heidemann, or four, Buzzy Kerbbox?
Wow, that's a rough one, man. Who beat him at the Coke Classic in 1980?
That's basically what you're getting out of my hints. Yes.
Wouldn't have been Rabbit. I don't know who the second one was. So Hans Hedemann or Buzzy. Tough one, man. I'm gonna go Hans Hedemann.
No, you're wrong. I'm sorry to say you've been stumped by the who said that. It's actually Chris
Hmm.
Byrne, who had a promising young career, and I believe injuries took him out early, and he had a big setback. But Critta Byrne,
Where'd you get the quote from?
the Encyclopedia of Surfing,
Surfing book?
the Encyclopedia of Surfing
You're
by Matt
frozen.
Warshaw. Oh, how about now? Can you hear me now?
Uh-oh.
Hey there.
Check 1, 2.
Hey there. How about
Check
now?
1, 2.
How about now? How about now? Any luck? Any luck whatsoever? Hello? Now you're frozen. Now you're frozen. I'm frozen. You're frozen. We're all frozen. What do we do? Why don't you text? Hey
Weird.
there. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm back. The last thing I said was, where'd you get the quote from?
Oh, the Encyclopedia of Surfing.
Uh,
Yeah, Matt Warshaw's Encyclopedia of Surfing. There was an interview by Michael Thompson. Did an interview with Chris Kreideburn. And I thought it was kind of a, that's a name that people should probably learn a little bit of history about.
yeah,
There's all these characters in the surf world from way back that get lost, so it's fun to kind of bring them to light.
yeah, absolutely. I had a little bit more about lowers, if you want to hear.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Well, one thing was last week on our YouTube channel, somebody left a comment. I was talking about Gabriella Bryan's power and how impressive it's been, and somebody actually left a comment said I disagree. She she's good, but her turns aren't that fluid. And this goes directly to the point that we were just making about Kelly versus Ethan. It says like she's doing a check turn that throws a ton of spray, repeating the same moves over and over and getting a 9 in the final. Maybe she won the heat, but that was a terrible score. Thanks for the video. And I went back and watched some of her footage, and it definitely, she's throwing a lot of power into a given turn. But this commenter is right. It's not fluid. It is a little bit like moving from one rail to the next rail, back to reposition, back into a big arc, or back into a big, like, kind of chucking turn. Kind of like Sonny Garcia always had that to me, where it was like he would throw a gnarly turn, but it was like setup, 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 and then boom, not necessarily fluid.
Yeah.
So that's a fair criticism.
Yeah, it's funny. I mentioned that video of Lower's warm-up session. There were some girls in that video too. Lakey Peterson, a goofy foot gal. I'm not sure who it was. But what I'm getting at is that the women surfing in general has a lot. There's a if Ethan Ewing is the gold standard, which let's just say he is, for lack of a better, let's say there's four gold standards. Let's call Ethan Ewing one of them. The girls are way, way, way off of the gold standard. Now, I don't know if it's fair to compare them, but
Yeah.
I feel like it is, because I feel like those girls are watching Ethan and going, God, I hope I could surf like that.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of disconnection and lack of flow and lack of smooth style. There's a lot of, oh, this will get me some points, but I'm going to bog my way down to the bottom and then look kind of awkward in the bottom turn. And oh, there's the, hopefully get some points at the top of the wave again. And um, what what kind of comes to my mind is the really good surfing that I see from the gals, especially Carolyn Marks, is the backside hacks where she can load up on her backside bottom turn and smoothly do a powerful top turn. And for whatever reason, because it's backside, because of the physiology of her body or whatever, it's a much smoother attack than the front side attack. It seems like the backside attack for some of the gals looks very smooth. Now, I will say that Aaron Brooks is pretty damn smooth. I'm not saying
Yeah.
she's at Ethan Ewing level, but
There's a
frankly,
tempo to her surfing.
Carissa was very, very had a connection, had a
Yeah.
smoothness, a flow to it. Look, Ethan Ewing, the gold standard's hard to meet. I'm not
Yeah.
saying we're all going to get there or anyone, but if that's it, and I think it should be something to point to, then the girls certainly could do with trying to smooth out their surfing and making this connection, the smooth transition that you were talking about.
Um, I also wanted to read a little bit of history on lowers since we're going to lead into that event before we record again. And this comes from the Encyclopedia of Surfing, and located on the northwest corner of the Camp Pendleton Marine Corps base. a virtually undeveloped 125-acre tract of land used primarily as a military training ground. Trestles has long been an oasis in the middle of Southern California's otherwise insanely overpopulated coastline and overdeveloped. Estuaries and marshes are located just behind the beach at Church, Lowers, and Uppers. Deer, bobcat, beavers, coyotes, mountain lions, and eagles live in the nearby foothills. I'm going to get into it more in a second, but I can't overstate that enough how odd that is in Orange County. If you grow up in the sprawling metropolis of Orange County, or San Diego actually is where it's located, it's right where they meet. You enter that zone, it's all military base and it's all undeveloped. And it's what, you know, I don't know, Central California kind of still looks that way, but it is like it looked 100, 200 years ago still. So it's odd to kind of
Well, I'll tell
hike
you
in there
what,
and surf.
thank God for uh, that toll road, that special road that they were trying to make cut right through all of that, because that was just a guise for developing that whole Santa Margarita River Valley.
Yeah.
And, all you have to do is look at any development in Southern California and realize as soon as they go, hey, let's put in a road,
Yep.
that's code for the developers are like, we need a road so we can develop the shit out of this land.
Yep.
It's not like to clean up traffic congestion.
No.
There was going to be some money had already been exchanged in backroom deals. Now I don't have proof of that. I'm just saying, wouldn't surprise me. But thank
Well,
God that thing got shut down.
I was going to work on a list of beaches that Surfrider has been kind of helped fight and save, and Trestles would be on the top of that list for the in that fight that you're exactly talking about. So support them, become a member at surfrider.org, of course. But carrying on with the history lesson, while a few Orange County surfers rode Trestles as far back as the late 1930s, Peanuts Larson's of Laguna is sometimes mentioned as the first. Mickey Dora and Phil Edwards, in their pre surf icon teenage years, put the break on the map in the summer of 1951, walking 1 mile north from San Onofre to Lowers and riding waves by themselves day after day. By the end of the 50s, Trestles was thought of as Orange County's answer to Malibu, except that while Malibu was the most public of surf breaks, the marine patrolled Trestles was technically off limits to all beachgoers, surfers included, until 1971 when public access was allowed. The Trestles surfing experience was in large part a strategic and tactical engagement with the U.S. Marines. Entry and exit routes through the marshland reeds were plotted. Surfboards were often hidden by their owners and sometimes confiscated by the Marines. And ammunition on occasion was fired over the heads of trespassing surfers. At one point, 2 platoons and a Coast Guard cutter positioned themselves on either side of the lineup at Lowers just to remove 2 kneeboarders. But Trestles, San Diego surfer Chuck Hazley once noted, was the one beachhead the Marines could never hold. Trestles has been home break to dozens of top California surfers over the decades, including Bill Hamilton, Herbie and Christian Fletcher, Jericho Poplar, Matt Archibald, Chris Ward, Shane Beschen, and Kaloe Andino. I would add Griffin Colapinto and the new cohort to that list. And the annual, as it relates to competitive surfing, the first annual all military surfing championships was held at Church, took place in 1972, and then the first civilian event at Trestles was the $6,000 Sutherland Pro held in 1977 and won by who, Scott Bass?
77 Sutherland Pro at Trestles. I'm going to say, hold on. 77 Sutherland Pro.
It was won by a Hawaiian.
Michael Ho.
There you go. I knew you knew it. In 1990, world champion to be Kelly Slater won his first pro debut by winning the $100,000 body glove surf bout held in perfect 5-foot surf at Lowers. A 10-year battle, as Scott mentioned, to prevent a toll road project from spilling into the Trestles area was won, at least temporarily, in early 2008 when the California Coastal Commission voted 8-2 that the project was not in compliance with the California Coastal Act. And then in 2013, the nearby San Onofre nuclear power plant, after a small radioactive leak, was shut down for good. There's a quick history.
Hold that thought. I'll come back and give you some insights on Trestles.
Yeah, I've got a Lowers question for you too.
Okay, welcome back. Trestles.
Wait, welcome back. And Mitch, DJ Seaweed last week submitted a joke in reference to our bathroom slash commercial breaks. Do you want to hear it?
No, I do not. Okay, go ahead.
The
Let's.
setup is, how long does it take Scott Bass to take a pee?
How long?
Oolong time. Oolong time.
Right, a reference to oolong tea. If you don't know, it's
Scott's preference for oolong tea. How long does it take
God.
Scott to
God
go
bless
pee?
Mitch. He's a great, good man.
I just got that text randomly last week. How long does this take Scott Bass to go pee? I'm like, dude, I don't know. I don't even know where this is going. He's like, oolong time.
He's a character. What a creative. He's a creative force. That guy.
Love it.
So a couple things about lowers. One is if you ever go to lowers or any of the Trestles area, do yourself a favor. My favorite thing about going to Trestles is taking in a big sniff and just take in the smells of that beautiful area. And what you'll smell is California sage. The power of California sage in that estuary is so fantastic and so wonderful and so overwhelming. It's just, that's the one thing I always think of when I think of Trestles is those early mornings by yourself, scampering down there and smelling that sage before it's even light out. And that's one of the summertime things. Other thing is, when I worked at Surfer, Rob Gilly had it timed. I remember when I first got my job there, like he's like, "All right, here's what you need to know about working here." And he's like, "It takes exactly 11 minutes." So you've got an hour lunch break. It'll be 11 minutes. You'll be in the water in 11 minutes. You'll be able to surf for 40. You can get back here, dry off in the parking lot, and eat your sandwich at your desk, and you're good. And that sticks with me as well. And the one of, if not the very first wave, but one of the first waves I ever caught, it was at Uppers. I was cut off by Matt Archibald. He must have been 12 or 10. He was a tiny little guy. I was probably 16. I just started driving, and I remember it was packed. It was really a good south swell, summertime, warm, and Matt Archibald just cut me off and snickered and laughed and basically told me to fuck off, more or less, as he rode in front of me the entire wave. Now, the funny, perhaps my funny, not funny, but interesting anecdote is that the first year after Sacred Craft in 2007, I called my friend Rob Havasey, the artist, and I said, Rob, I want to make a special trophy for the icons of foam. And he goes, let me think about it. I'll get back to you because he's an artist. And he goes, I got an idea. You know, there's that massive sycamore tree that's in the river there at Uppers that just like at one point during one of those winter storms, a big sycamore tree washed into the lineup at Uppers. And he goes, let's dig out that sycamore tree, cut a piece of wood from it, and we'll make your trophy out of the tree at Uppers that everyone knows about. It'll be iconic, just like the Shapers you're honoring. I'm like, let's do it. I called up Cyrus Sutton to be my videographer and take video of it. And Rob and I and Cyrus had a plan. We were going to go. We had to do this at dark. I mean, like this felt illegal going into a state park I bought a chainsaw at Home Depot. We got there 3 a.m, made our way down to Uppers before anyone would see us. We had to dig the friggin' thing out. And somehow or another, we got Steve Long, who was the captain or the chief of the state lifeguards there at Trestles. I guess it was afterwards, maybe. But anyway, so we cut the thing and we got this huge, massive piece of wood that we have to now haul out. And so Steve Long, Greg Long's father, like we join up with him. He's like, all right, look, just throw your piece of wood in the back of my lifeguard truck. We'll jam it up to your car. No one will know. Steve Long was cool enough to let us do that. And I got the piece of wood back to a guy who knows wood because Rob was going to carve the trophy out, right? And it ends up sycamore is like the worst wood you could ever ask to do a trophy or a carving of, because it's what they call a moving wood. It's constantly moving. It doesn't keep its form. It changes shape all the time throughout its drying out process. So that whole thing got thrown away.
Oh, geez.
The whole mission was gone. We've got a great mission with us and the chainsaw and Cyrus videoing it. And anyway,
What a bummer.
that's my
So
final anecdote.
he had to make a trophy out of something else.
I eventually went and bought a really beautiful piece of black, um, some sort of black maple or black walnut or something
Mm,
from a tropical exotic hardwood store here in Carlsbad,
okay.
and made the trophy out of that.
Who won the trophy?
Well, it's a perpetual trophy. It's still in existence. It's the one you see each and every year
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
at
yeah,
the
yeah. I have
icon of
seen
the
it.
phone. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay.
But that
Gotcha.
initially was going to be this piece of sycamore. And
Gotcha.
then Rob
Gotcha.
and I had a falling out. We've since made up, but Rob's like, "That's my piece of wood." I'm like, "Dude, I friggin' paid for it. I bought a $300 chainsaw." Like, he's like, "Nope, that's mine. It was my idea." I'm like, "Oh my God, I don't know what happened to the wood."
Um,
I'm sure
s-
by the way, I'm sure Rob has a different version of the story.
yeah, of course.
And I think Cyrus probably it'd be good to hear Cyrus's version of this story too. I'm sure I left some stuff out.
Well, this is why we come to Spit, Scott, is to hear stories like that and the Matt Archibald story straight from the
I remember
ground.
Matt was in a red wetsuit, a red full suit. It was one of those rip curl. I'm sure Don Craig got him into a full suit and a red wetsuit in 1981. Me from San Diego. I was like, what?
I know.
Up in Orange County, that was fine, but that didn't fly down in San Diego. But of course, I was the visitor, not him.
Well, let's say for the record, I know you like to state this, but Trestles does fall on San Diego's side. Even though Warshaw is referring to it as Orange County, everybody refers to it as Orange County. It's
Well,
technically San Diego
actually,
County.
Uppers is in Orange County, and I was surfing
Oh,
Uppers.
okay.
Lowers is in San Diego County. The line is that river, the Santa Margarita
Yeah.
River. And so Uppers is technically in Orange County, which is where I
Well,
was. God, I
barely. I
saw the
mean,
biggest rattlesnake that day too.
oh,
Because I
really?
parked like I'm just like, I don't know where to park. I was 16-year-old coming from Del Mar. I like parked back then. You could just take dirt roads, and I just parked like somewhere bad, kind of like where you're not supposed to park. Like I hid in the bushes and parked, and getting out, and there was just the meanest, gnarliest, biggest rattlesnake I've ever seen right next to our car. It was crazy.
Were you able to park down by the train track back then?
I parked, so I got off on Christianitos and went west to where there's new housing. There's military housing there now, I believe.
Yeah.
There's a new housing track that wasn't
Yeah.
there then. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I just like took a road and just kind of like went off with my VW bug into this little zone in the
Yeah.
scrub
Yeah.
and just looked around and went, let's go here. And we just pulled up the e-brake, and that's where I parked.
Yeah. There's still rattlesnakes on the beach there. Watch out. What's the best surfing you've ever seen at Lowers? Can you think of it?
Um, I mean, I would suggest to you that perhaps it's Luke Egan. That one year it was huge. Luke Egan won the event, and it was massive, like almost what some would say is too big for Trestles. I think some people say that after 8 feet, Trestles kind of gets too fat and pushes down. But Luke Egan's backside surfing, the one year he won it, that was massive. I remember being pretty blown away by that.
Looks like 2002, he defeated Mick Campbell in the
Yeah,
final,
it
the
was
Boost
big.
Mobile Pro.
Yeah. In fact, I
Uh,
think that was the year that Jason Murray, our photographer at Surfer, hired a boat, and did the boat get onto the beach? It, like the motor wouldn't start and Sets pushed it onto the beach. I think that's what happened. Again,
Crazy. I going down and surfing that place through like my late teenage years, seeing a lot of the local pros, the Chris Wards and all those guys surfing unbelievably good. It was always interesting to then have the World Tour show up and see kind of the disparity between your local pros and Mick Fanning or Kelly Slater or Andy Irons. And not Chris wasn't that far behind those guys, but like despite my argument against Kelly Slater in this upcoming event, the best surfing I've ever seen. I mean, Kelly Slater out there was unbelievable. Andy Irons, Mick Fanning, probably a little bit later than those guys. Unbelievable precision, you know, just like for Andy, there was a bit more of, I don't know, like
Spark.
or just rawness to it. Just like you didn't know what he was going to do, and he'd kind of get like off balance, and then he'd recover and then do something. Mick was just this metronome of precision and power, and there was never a turn that was half power. It was just like crazy power. Um, and speed, power flow kind of a thing. And so that was unbelievable to witness. That was probably the most impactful that I've seen. Kelly was always incredible just because he was the full range of things. He would do a huge arc and then go left and do like a rodeo flip or something like that. So that was kind of wild.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well,
great venue
it's
for a
gonna,
surf
yeah,
contest.
it is, and it's going to be, it like we said, we were glad it's on tour. It just shouldn't be the final
Yeah, of
stop. It
course.
shouldn't decide the world champion.
Yeah.
So that's coming up here June 9th through the 17th, and of
The
course, Lours is going to be the Olympic surfing venue in 2028.
I'm going to make a bold prediction right now
Yes.
based on past statistics. Kelly
Oh,
Slater will get barreled at this upcoming event.
that's an interesting one.
He, you never see guys get barreled out there. In the free surfs, never. For some reason, Kelly finds barrels out there in contests.
And won't get scored for it.
No, definitely, it's not worth a score.
Yeah.
But I mean, I remember over the years, he's the only guy I can think of who gets barreled out there. So I'm claiming it.
All right. And what about Jordy? I feel like Jordy has a bit of a drop off here.
Jordy's won this event at least twice.
Yeah.
I think Jordy makes the quarters, maybe semis.
I hope he needs to make the quarters.
Well, this is a much smaller
Field.
number of surfers because
Yeah.
obviously the cut has been implemented. But yeah, I'm going to say semis then, considering the cut.
All right. Fair enough.
All right, 4 days. I'm getting amped right now.
Are you?
Yeah,
Dude, there's going to be good swell.
I'm ready for it.
Yeah.
Well, in other WSL news, the Challenger Series has added a couple of events, including Pipeline. The Challenger Series was a 6 event tour this year, and even though event one has already started, they're adding 2 new events at the end of the season already. Pipeline on January 28th, so it's technically 2026. The former 6 events run in 2025, but then Pipe gets added in the wintertime, and then another event at Newcastle. So they're running the Newcastle event currently while we're recording this, which is event number one. They're adding it again at the back of the season. So you have 2 Newcastle events, and they're also, of course, the big news is really Pipeline because the Challenger Series has kind of marginal surf, let's say, and is the criticism is that it's not a great preparation for the big stage of the World Tour. So putting a wave of consequence, a world-class wave like Pipeline, is I think a good move, obviously.
I do too. And it's great for the Hawaiians. And I think it's crucial actually for the guys that didn't, for the Ian Gentiles, for the guys that didn't make the cut, this gives them a chance to, not have to grovel in Rio to try to get back on tour.
Exactly. And I think you might have mentioned through your conversation with Dave Prodan that the WSL had that winter time permit. And the
Hmm.
question was, what are they going to do with that permit? Well, turning it into a Challenger Series event seems like the best use of it.
For sure. Good move. Now, is that
Great
event
move.
and when does that event take place? In February?
Janu January
Yeah.
28th through February
Yeah,
8th.
that's their permit. Yep. Good.
And this also means that now your top 5 scores throughout the Challenger Series are what get calculated into your total. So even if you surf 7 events, you get 2 throwaways.
Very
So
cool.
that's worth noting. And then additionally, kind of worth noting, Italo Ferreira took to Instagram to announce that he is a father to be. His girlfriend, Sofia LaRocca, is pregnant. This is a 31 Italo with fatherhood now on the mind.
Hmm. What does that what does that do for Elo? What is it I think of focused Elo as a scary Elo. Like when he's focused, I'm putting my money on him.
I think this diffuses some of his focus. I think this kind of challenges his next title campaign. And I'm wondering if that, in fact, is reflected in his 3 consecutive losses to 3 wildcards in the round of 32, these last 3 events.
You mean he knew?
Well, certainly they knew before they announced it on Instagram. So, yeah, I mean, and if, by the way, he didn't exactly know, or I don't know when he knew that she got pregnant, but he's been busy with a new girlfriend, getting her pregnant for, in recent time. His focus is, like I said, not not off the title, but it's diffused.
I have a great idea for a gender reveal.
Let's hear it. I
We
can't
have
wait.
Italo in his heat at lowers, and they put up a big balloon that's filled with either pink smoke or blue smoke. And what he has to do is he has to ride down the line, and at the end of the wave, he has to do an air and somehow puncture the balloon, and we get either the pink or the blue smoke for the gender reveal.
I see it. And so the air that he's been doing lately in the wave pools is the Superman, and he thrusts his board up so he could use the point of his board to poke the balloon.
And if the balloon doesn't burst, not
He can
good.
do it again.
Yeah, do it again.
Do it again. You know what? Do a rotation, hit it with your fins this time.
Bang it with your fins, and that would be a cool gender reveal.
I like it.
Yeah,
You are a creative.
thank you, man.
Well, congratulations to Italo and Sophia. And yeah,
Do you remember a surfer named Liam Mahoney?
nope.
Liam Mahoney is a 29-year-old California surfer who last summer got tackled on the beach in New Jersey while he was attempting to go surfing because he didn't have a beach badge,
Yeah, this
which is
guy's gonna get paid out.
a proof of payment to the municipality, and those funds are used for beach maintenance and lifeguard wages, etc. Well, um, he has entered a plea deal. He has entered a plea deal. Let me tell you what happened. He was surfing 19th Avenue on August 30th last year in Belmar, New Jersey. He was approached by Officer Ryan Braswell and asked to present his beach badge. Mahoney was at the edge of the water, holding his longboard at the time. An argument ensued. Mahoney was tackled to the sand, handcuffed, and put into a police vehicle. All of this was on video, by the way. You can see it on YouTube. But yesterday or last week, after the back and forth, and there was some back and forth in court, actually, eventually Mahoney took a plea deal in the case, and he will enter a diversion program and pay fines if he completes the diversion program. The diversion program. What is the diversion program for not paying a beach fine? If he completes the program, the charges, which included disorderly conduct, obstruction, and resisting arrest. So that's really what the plea is about. It wasn't about the beach badge. It was about his behavior when he was told he was going to be arrested. That will be dismissed if he completes successfully this diversion program.
See, I saw that going a different way. From the conversations we were having back then, it was an overuse of police force, and that they would end up having to pay him out. So I'm surprised to hear this update.
Yeah, well, what's interesting here, really, that I didn't talk about is the back and forth that took place in court the other day because of this. So at some point, the judge was decided to start questioning Mahoney. And Mahoney's like, I had a beach badge. And the judge was like, you did? And the judge was like looking at the prosecutor going, did you know that he had a beach badge? And then it ended up that they had to put a pause on the proceedings, and the prosecutor and the defense attorney had to go back into the judge's chambers and have a discussion. And it looked very clearly like the judge was going to demand that this go to trial rather than a plea deal. Because if in fact Mahoney, which he said he had a beach badge, how can you prosecute? How can you write a ticket for it? And how can you tackle and arrest him? And so I think what eventually evolved was that the defense attorney goes, look, we can go to trial and you can maybe win this. But you and I have already had the discussion, and you thought that a plea deal was probably a better way to go just to get this behind you. And I think that's what occurred.
I will say additionally, thanks to Instagram, I see all these videos nowadays of people arguing with cops. Like they get pulled over and the police officer's like, license and registration. And the person's like, I don't have to give that to you. And then a argument ensues. They're like, I know my rights as a citizen. I'm like, shut the hell up. Like,
Yeah.
like I know that there is racial profiling. I know that there is overuse of force with police officers. Those things happen, but those are not the norm. Those things are kind of the anomaly, and the police are just trying to do their job generally. Why are you making their job harder? Their lives are at risk all the time. They're pulling up worried you have a gun and you're going to shoot them, right? So just comply and make their lives a little bit easier, especially if you're not doing anything wrong. This can be
Yeah.
over in 30 seconds, you know?
Yeah.
Like I'm blown away at people's behavior nowadays.
Yeah. I look, I've, I have no concern about myself getting shot by a police officer. Um, I'm a elderly white male. I'm like the perfect demographic to not get shot. You know what I mean? So I can't speak for for whatever, if there's fear that people have about cops, but I always recommend when you get pulled over, have your hands on the steering wheel so they can see them, roll down the window. I even suggest maybe putting your hands out of the window when they approach.
Great
And
starting point.
9 times out of 10, they're like, thank you.
Exactly.
License and registration. Here it is. And if you respect, by the way, I had a funny run in the other day on the, speaking of this, Mitch will enjoy this. So I was driving to Orange County and I have this one place where I always pull over and take a piss on the 5.
Oolong piss.
It's an oolong piss. It's a great place. It's usually like 5:30 in the morning. I usually go up there early to avoid traffic. And I pull over and I get out and it's a very safe place to pull over. And there's a large wide berth there. And I get out and I take a piss and a CHP officer pulls up behind my car with his lights on. And I'm peeing. And I'm like, oh shit, and he gets out of his car and he like kind of walks halfway to me and I'm still peeing. And and I zip up and I walk back to him and he goes, "You couldn't hold it, huh?" And I'm like, "No, officer, I'm sorry." And he's like, I forget what else he said. He goes, "All right, well, um, you know, next time try to hold it." And he goes back and gets in his car as I get into my car. And I'm like, okay, this is where he's gonna write me a ticket, you
Yeah.
know? And nothing happens. And eventually he pulls up next to me. He's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm just kind of waiting for your next, he's like, "No, no, you can go. Just go ahead. Next time, whatever." He said, like,
Yeah.
try to hold it or whatever.
Well, that's nice.
He let me go. Yeah. But I thought for sure I was going to get written up.
Totally. Well, I agree with you. I'm of a demographic that is not worried about getting shot by a police officer either. But what I would like to state is that you know who wakes up every morning worried about getting shot? The police officer themselves. So
Right.
that's why they are operating differently or under a certain, whatever.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's what you should always be cognizant of if you do get pulled over is that consideration. So,
Yeah.
anyways,
And they're literally trained to consider the worst case
yeah,
scenario each and every time they pull somebody over. Like
of course,
they're
of
going into
course.
it with, you know,
Yeah. So comply.
yeah.
Give your drivers your license and registration. But as we're on the conversation of Jersey, I do want to acknowledge my Duke of the Week is one Carl Tinker West, who passed
Yes.
away recently. And this was also left, I saw this on social media, but this was left on our YouTube page. Somebody referenced it. They said, um, we lost Carl Tinker West from Challenger Eastern Surfboards. Detail I didn't know, he was also Bruce Springsteen's first manager, which is incredible. So Tinker was 89 years old, a true craftsman. Um, Charles Mensell of Mensell Surfboards also posted on Instagram and just said he had it all figured out. Business, branding, manufacturing, employment, management. His bullshit threshold was low. If you thought you were full of it, he would tell you. So I know Charles has always spoken really highly of Tinker, so
Did you see Matt Warshaw's thing on this?
I didn't know.
Oh, this is so good. So, um, let me find it. And if you got a second, I'm going to read it. I hope it's here. Where is it?
We can cut out the dead air.
Okay. So you mentioned Carl Tinker West was, he was Bruce Springsteen's first manager, right? You mentioned that. Let me tell you what Springsteen wrote on his own Facebook page about Carl Tinker West. Are you ready for this? This is
I'm
from
ready.
Bruce Springsteen. Uh, Carl West was simply one of the most important people in my young life. In 1970, I had nothing, nowhere to live, was broke with nowhere to go. He recognized my talent and he took me in. We lived together in one tiny room in his Wanamassa, New Jersey Challenger Eastern Surfboard Factory. His
Amazing.
mattress was on one side of the room and mine was 6 feet away on the other side of the room. Carl was a natural born misanthrope. He was not an easy man to know, live with, or be around. He was from California and was an old school frontier individualist, asking no quarter and giving none. If you weren't being useful, he didn't want you near him. If you visited the surf shop for more than 10 minutes, he'd shove a broom in your hand and tell you to start sweeping, and he wasn't joking. I drove across the country many times with Tinker. First, at 20 years old, in his 1940 Chevrolet flatbed truck with all of our band equipment under a tarp in the back, seeking our fame and fortune out west. The truck was old and huge with an unwieldy grinding transmission, and he insisted we drive straight through to Big Sur, our only gig, without stopping, for 72 hours. He also insisted that I, without skills or license, drive my share. That's how Tinker taught you something. He just made you do it. We graduated to an old Nomad station wagon in later years, and each Christmas we'd find ourselves heading west on the I-10 through dry desert and western mountain blizzards. I'd be going to see my folks one year in San Mateo, and Tinker, who would be headed into San Francisco to see who I cannot imagine. Did my old friend have parents? I can't believe so. I believe he sprung near full grown from the mountains, valleys, and waves of a primitive and unknowable California. After I became a huge success over the years, Tinker asked me for exactly nothing. He was forever alone, working off the grid and independent. I was always satisfied when I would be the recipient of Tink's highest compliment. Springsteen, you don't fuck around. Now, I didn't, neither did Sir Carl West fuck around. The last time I saw him, he was in a hospital near the end, dying from throat cancer. He smiled when he saw me, and I kissed one of my errant fathers goodbye. I kissed him goodbye. I hung out for a while. He pulled me close, and his voice, raspy and nearly gone, whispered, "We sure had some adventures, didn't we?" And I answered, "We sure did." When I was about to leave, I saw something I never thought I'd see in this life or the next. He cried, and I loved him.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. It was a tearjerker.
Jeez.
I even sent Matt a text going, "Man, dude, I almost crying right there." So
You're
that's from Bruce Springsteen about Carl Tinker West. Pretty friggin' cool.
kind of sounds like a songwriter or something. It was
Yeah,
beautifully written.
yeah.
That
Well
was
done.
incredible.
Yeah, that's
Well,
good stuff.
Duke of the Week, undersung hero of the shaping world.
And you know who else put out who was heavily influenced was Jim the Genius Phillips, Jim Phillips, iconic surfboard craftsman, and just just a guy I always go over and see when I have questions about surfboards and especially wood. But Jim Phillips was mentored by Carl West.
Didn't know that.
Yeah.
Should have consulted Jim Phillips about that that trophy building debacle.
No kidding. Absolutely right. Thing about Jim is he would have made it work. He'd be like, "I can make this sycamore work." He would have done something, infused it with some sort of oak oil or something. So
No, it's a true perpetual trophy. It just changes all the time.
hey, there you go. Wow. Now you're thinking.
Well, in the interest of time, I've got to wrap up here. I've got my Mussy moment presented by Trees Wax, of course, petroleum-free surf wax, high performance surf wax, treeswax.com. Now Media just released a little documentary, 30+ minute documentary on Morocco's ultimate wave, Les Jardines or Jardine. And it's a incredibly well done documentary. They did one before. I think I mentioned it to you about a year ago. They did this documentary on the wave in Mozambique. And so I don't know, or actually they did the one on Puerto Escondido a year ago as well. I forget what that one was called, but I'm presuming that now they are doing these as kind of a ongoing documenting various waves around the world, the kind of best waves around the world, but they're really, really well done, like high quality documentary that you would see on any streaming service, but they're about waves. So this one's on Morocco. I'm going to read to you from their YouTube caption or whatever that's called down there. It says, if you found the most perfect wave in the world, would you be able to keep it a secret? The story of Safi, a mythical wave on Morocco's Atlantic coast that was discovered by a small group of friends in the early 1980s. They swore each other to secrecy and surfed the wave alone for decades. But the secret this good is hard to keep. Um, as the crowds and the tensions rise, the wave's future hangs in the balance. Join us as we turn back the clock and trace the roots of this incredible surf discovery while reliving some of the best waves and biggest barrels ever documented below Safi's towering cliffs. Along the way, we explore the origins of Moroccan's unique surf culture and discover why Safi is one of the most challenging point breaks on the planet and what it takes to ride it. So they go deep into the history of the place and then have tons of footage from the past and also the modern stuff with Ramsey Bukhayam, a bunch of other pro surfers absolutely shredding the place. So it's an incredible piece, and it is called The Secret Story of Morocco's Ultimate Wave.
All right. I'm going to check that out. I'm a big fan of Morocco.
Yeah,
And
it's
if
an incredible.
you're a
I mean,
regular foot, you need to go there. It's a
yeah,
bucket list spot.
yeah, completely.
Well, by the way, I've been watching 100 foot wave finally.
Good.
Yeah, it's been okay. It's I mean it's been engaging, but you know, I give it an 8 out of 10. It's very good. Don't get me wrong, it's very good. But some of it I'm just a little bit, I guess, because I'm a little too close to it. It just it's those shows are made for non-enthusiasts surfers. They're made for like aspiring surfers or whatever. So there's some stuff that's a bit corny.
I thought so. The Cortez Bank episode, I thought maybe had too much surfing in it. Otherwise, I think the episodes have been really tight. I actually really liked the Eddie episode because it was so much behind the scenes stuff that I was just not privy to. It
I
was
haven't seen
like,
that one yet. I think that's after Cortez.
that's episode 4.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one yet.
The Eddie
Okay.
episode is really good. It's the year that Luke Shepardson won.
Oh, cool. I'm gonna watch
And
that.
they're like following Luke around in his lifeguard booth as he's like,
Yeah.
literally saving lives and then going out and surfing. It's really, really well done.
Oh, that sounds cool. I'm gonna
Yeah.
check that out. Um, my must-see moment presented by Trees Wax is I just watched. Go on to Encyclopedia of Surfing and do a search for Burn video. And
Okay.
there's footage of him surfing in at home and on the Gold Coast, and it looks like it's at J Bay or something. But you get a real sense for his style, his type of surfing, and he's a character that I think was, let's not forget him. Let's.
How do you spell Creta?
Well, it's Chris Byrne, and it's Critta. That was his nickname. Critta.
Oh,
Critta
okay.
Byrne. Chris
I
Critta Byrne. Critta Byrne.
that now it all makes sense. Creta. Okay, I
Yeah.
thought you were.
And his brother was Phil Byrne, surfboard
Yeah,
surfer.
got it. Okay, cool. Oh, one final thing I will say while we're on the subject of Australia, I just got the new issue of Surfing World, issue 425. It's in my hand. If you're looking at YouTube, you could see the cover shot right here. And Sean Doherty sent me about 30 copies. So I have these available to purchase for US customers if you want. Go to surfsplendorpodcast.com. We've got them for 20 bucks. So we benefit basically from the bulk shipping rate by him getting them over to me here. Then I can distribute them through the US. But really phenomenal issue. It's the Cyclone Alfred coverage, which we obviously discussed on the show, but just incredible imagery from that. And then there's The Last Days of Davo, an article written by Derek Hind about Chris Davidson is in here. There's an article about Shane Herring. There's actually Blue Horizon and the Bastard Desire, which covers Jack McCoy's film Blue Horizon. Went into print obviously before Jack McCoy passed away, but coincidental. So that
I
it's a
feel
really
like,
great
did
issue.
Chris Davidson win lowers one time?
He made an epic run one year. I can't remember if he won, but I do remember what you're talking
I
about.
think he was in the finals and he might have won it.
Might have won it. You're right.
That would be cool if they
Chris
did something for him at the lowers
Davidson,
event, like just an
lowers.
acknowledgement of some sort.
Um, I don't. Google doesn't pull it up immediately, so I'm not sure.
Hmm. I'm looking.
Looks like he
Bear with me.
finaled. Looks like he finaled against Gabe Kling the year that Gabe Kling won.
Oh,
But
really? That's random. The year Dave Kling won.
yeah. Well, anyways, a lot of dead air. Takes a while to research this stuff.
It does.
Yeah, Gabe Clean got first. Chris Davidson got second on that year.
Uh,
That's all we
WSL
got.
is worse. Like I can't find anything.
I know
There's
the fact that
nothing on him winning that. They have year 2010 and 2011. That's all they have.
yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. Okay. Anyways.
Okay. Well, look, until next time, David, adios and aloha.